If everything about your husband seems perfect to you, then he's surely someone else's husband. I glanced sideways at Rita, who was chattering without pause, and mentally regretted that I had agreed to drop in on my neighbor for tea. I had barely stepped over the threshold of the Mitrofanovs' apartment when Ratusya started dumping on my head all her pent-up complaints about her husband. The list of Pavel's transgressions turned out, on the one hand, to be extensive, on the other, standard. 9 out of 10 women can say of their life partner that he is inattentive, doesn't help around the house, coming home from work immediately flops onto the couch by the TV, doesn't earn enough money, insists on strict economizing. Continue the list yourselves. Any married couple who have lived together for more than a year develops mutual grievances. If you want to keep your family together, remember, marriage is hard only for the first 30 years, then it gets much easier. There is not the slightest sense in filing for divorce right after the honeymoon and looking for a new life partner. 12 months will pass, and it will become clear to you. The second husband is inattentive, doesn't help around the house, coming home from work immediately flops onto the couch. Unaware of my thoughts, Mitrofanova suddenly fell silent, then asked, "Tan, tell me, do we need to get a divorce?" I shrugged. Tomorrow is New Year's. The tree, presents, Olivier's salad. Don't spoil the holiday. Pashta doesn't deserve a holiday. Rita charged into battle furiously. He didn't even buy me a trifle. How do you know? I was surprised. Most likely, Pavel hid the present so that you wouldn't stumble on it ahead of time. That's what caring greed does, Rita whined. I saw yesterday how your husband was carrying in the elevator a bag from a luxury women's lingerie shop. And mine, on the 31st, will dash to the bakery and bring a box of chocolates. Can you imagine? I'm losing weight. I'm on a diet. Trying to drop weight, and we'll get chocolate. What should I do? I am asking you not as a neighbor but as a psychologist. I tried to arrange my face into the stern expression of a learned lady. If you're asked to identify the profession of a woman a little over 30, not very fashionably haircut, modestly dressed, in shoes with a comfortable 5-centimeter heel, and with a quite decent but inexpensive bag, what assumptions will you make? A teacher? An accountant? A doctor from a district clinic? A research institute employee? A hotel administrator? A librarian? I strongly doubt that you will confidently answer, "She is a member of a major crimes investigation unit, and thank God I don't attract attention. By the nature of my job, I often have to pretend to be a perfectly ordinary woman whose head is filled only with thoughts of misbehaving kids and the family dinner menu. But alas, Gree and I have no children. I cook badly. And most often I think about things it's better for lay people not to know. Well, for example, whether you can kill a person by scaring him badly. We had a case like that in the fall. None of the neighbors even suspects what my husband and I do. Those around us are firmly convinced that Gree is a middling actor who makes his living with commercials and hosting weddings, jubilees, and corporate parties, and that I teach psychology to correspondence students at an institute. Therefore, I often go out to the regions to give students tests and exams. "Come on, give me advice," Rita demanded. "I'm at a crossroads. Maybe I should go live with my mother for a while." "A silly idea," I sighed. "If you go, go. Do you think if you pack a suitcase and hightail it to your mom, Pasha will get scared and run after you? He won't want to see you in the new year alone," said Mitrofanova. "And what if it's the opposite?" I squinted. "He'll be delighted by his wife's escape, throw a party, call in his pals, start having fun." Rita clenched her fists. "Then I'll kill him. You'll settle in at your mother's. The revelry will go on without you," I reasonably objected. "In short, don't ruin anyone's holiday. Try to forget your grievances. On New Year's, miracles happen. Maybe you and Pasha will start a new chapter in your relationship." "Those are fairy tales for preschoolers," Rita waved it off.
How do you know that your husband won't give you anything tomorrow? I came at it from another angle.
Rita looked at me with pity. Ton, can you hide anything in our apartments? 3 ordinary rooms plus a bathroom, a kitchen, and the John. And the hallway, too. I know all Pashka's caches by heart. His stash lies in the tools, or he hides it behind the toilet in the niche where the riser goes. The man has no imagination for anything more. I've already looked there. There's nothing. The day's not over yet, I exclaimed optimistically. Oh, come on, Rita sniffled. Maybe I should run to the supermarket, buy a cake, and eat it all by myself out of grief. You've been on a diet for almost a year, I reminded her. I marvel at your willpower. You managed to lose 20 kilos. 10 more to go, the neighbor noted self-critically. I'm incapable of such a feat, I confessed. I try not to eat tasty things, but I slip up. I chew apples for a week, drink kefir. Then I see a little cake and nom nom. If you knew it was poisoned, would you still gobble it down? Rita asked slyly. No, I laughed. Then think every time you look at a pastry, there's poison in it, advised Mitrofanova. You'll wolf it down and go straight to the cemetery. It helps me. Since March, I haven't taken a crumb of sweets into my mouth and won't, even if they drag me to the stake, Rita declared resolutely. And as for miracles under the tree, I stopped believing in them at 8, when instead of the beautiful doll I'd asked Father Frost for, I got hideous lace-up boots. Our fascinating conversation was interrupted by the doorbell. Rita stood up. Who could that be? Pashka won't drag himself back before 10. I didn't invite guests. Sit alone for a second. I nodded. Mitrofanova dashed into the hallway. I felt a faint prick of envy. As recently as the end of last winter, my neighbor weighed more than I did and looked like a plump female hippopotamus. And now she has turned into a frisky gazelle. Not the car, but the antelope, although I don't understand why that animal is considered a model of grace. Personally, I don't like its thin, sinewy legs at all, adorned with hooves. Can you imagine how much money a pedicure would cost if you lacquered not nails, but those very hooves? My gaze shifted to the sideboard. Well now, Mitrofanova had changed its contents. Rita adores beautiful dishes, and just last Friday, when I ran in to borrow some salt we'd run out of at our place, behind the glass doors there preened an expensive dinner set that my neighbor had bought in midsummer. There are women who adore cosmetics, bags, shoes, but Mitrofanova belongs to another category. No, she won't refuse a new outfit or perfume, but her heart is forever given to plates, cups, salad bowls, and other items of crystal and porcelain. At the same time, she and Pavel drink tea from shabby mugs with an unpretentious floral pattern, and dine off cheap faience. Rita doesn't allow anyone to use her collection, well, except once every couple of years in an exceptional case. She had long dreamed of a dinner set by a very expensive German company. A couple of times she said, "Dishes of astonishing beauty, but the price, enough to freak out." When her dream came true, Ritulia banished from the open part of the sideboard her former best set, locked it in a cupboard, and put the new purchase in a place of honor, and began, under any pretext, to drag into her kitchen her girlfriends and neighbors. For it's not enough to buy a thing. You want to see how others look at it with lust, and to understand the other gals will never require dishes at the price of a Russian automobile. Any husband, unless he's sitting on an oil rig, will yell in indignation when he learns how much was paid for porcelain junk. Apparently, Pavel is not as stingy as his wife thinks, since he didn't kill her over the new plates. "Tanyasha!" Rita shouted. "Look, a surprise!" I went out into the hallway and saw Father Frost, dressed in a bright red robe with a white cotton collar generously sprinkled with glitter. On the head of the fairy tale character sat a cute ear-flap hat. but on his feet, instead of the proper felt boots, were ordinary shoes. One lace had come undone, and its end was smeared in something yellow-blue. Probably Granddad had stepped in paint. "Hello, girls," he rattled off with a speech defect and indistinctly. "Have you behaved well? Take a present. Eat it right away. Don't store it, or else it will expire." At the end of December, Father Frost and the Snow Maiden are the most in-demand characters. Therefore, companies hire just anyone, including even tongue-tied and fond of drink performers. "Expire?" I repeated. "Eat it, or else it will expire?" "I don't pronounce the letter R well," the guest confessed. "It comes out as L. Instead of ribba, I say libba. Clear?" "Got it," I nodded. "Rita needs to gobble the present quickly, otherwise it will spoil." "From whom is the little present?" Mitrofanova inquired. Grandpa Frost shuffled in place, constantly stepping on the trailing lace. "A couple of days ago you helped me, picked me up on the street." "Goodness!" Mitrofanova jumped. "Nikolai, I didn't recognize you." "I moonlight as a wizard," the man droned nasally. "A good seasonal supplement to my salary. I got an order in your building, drove up to the entrance and realized, wow, this is where Margarita lives. So I bought you a small gift next door. Enjoy, and once again, many thanks." "Take off your coat," hospitably suggested Mitrofanova. "Let's have some tea." "I can't," Nikolai refused. "By midnight I have to fulfill 20 orders. Today is the haymaking. Tomorrow is the 31st. When Rita slammed the door behind Grandpa, she exclaimed excitedly, "Let's go!" We returned to the kitchen. Ritulya set the box on the table, untied the pink ribbon, took off the lid and squealed, "Look! Pastries from Gourmania!" I involuntarily swallowed. From the box, exquisite little sponge cakes sparkled invitingly with glaze and cream. Believe me, a professional devourer of desserts, nowhere in Moscow do they make cakes as delicious as in Gourmania. Especially I adore, the caramel madness with a glazed cherry. And here it is right in front of me. "Unbelievable," whispered Rita. "I'm going to die of desire right now. He bought 10 pieces, all different." "Who is Nikolai?" I asked, devouring the dessert with my eyes. Mitrofanova lifted a drop of stuck cream from the edge of the box with her finger, licked it and moaned, Coffee. Coffee-flavored. I can't even figure out whether I like it more than the caramel one or almost as much." Rita shook her head. "I lose my mind near these pastries. I met Nikolai by chance 2 days ago. I was hurrying home from the metro. I see a man is lying on the sidewalk. People are running past, no one stops, and he reminded me of Pashka, so I slowed down and started shaking him. It turned out that Nikolai is diabetic. He had a coma, hypoglycemic coma, I prompted. A very dangerous thing. A sharp drop in blood sugar can lead to a fatal outcome. "Exactly," Rita nodded. "That's what he whispered. He asked to put a piece of sugar or white bread into his mouth, and I had a kilogram of sugar cubes with me, had just bought it." "Nikolai was lucky," I sighed. "He could have simply frozen. It's December outside. True, not especially cold, but you shouldn't lie around on the sidewalk." "I thought the same," picked up Mitrofanova. "Luckily it happened almost at our entrance. I brought Nikolai into the apartment, gave him tea." "You should have called the ambulance," I interrupted Rita. "He refused, said he was himself to blame, didn't have a proper breakfast, forgot to take his medicine." The neighbor rattled on. "Sat for an hour and left. And today he dragged in pastries." "Very nice," I approved. "A trifle, but pleasant. You, of course, want the caramel one?"
Rita flashed her eyes. "I'm trying to lose weight." I offered weak resistance. "Yesterday I drank only kefir." "The caramel one," repeated Mitrofanova in the tone of a tempter snake. How it smells. It's New Year outside. You'll polish the figure later." I hesitated. "Do you advise to spit on the diet?" "Of course," the neighbor exclaimed convincingly. "Here I'm putting your favorite on your plate, and I'll treat myself to the apple one. Well done, Nikolai. He didn't spare money, bought 10 pieces, all different." Alas, a human is weak. In 1 minute I gobbled the pastry and sighed mournfully. It ended too quickly. Mitrofanova, however, did not hurry. She sniffed the apple sponge with rapture and kept saying, "I won't hurry. I'll enjoy the aroma and only then take a bite. Tanyash, take another coffee one." I wanted to thank the hostess, but my tongue suddenly began to go numb. "Great that Nikolai got an order in our entrance," Rita continued to rejoice. "Death to the diet!" The light in my eyes began to fade. The last thing I remember was a feeling of surprise that I experienced at Mitrofanova's words. A sharp smell of rotten meat hit my nose. I opened my eyes and almost screamed from pain. My head was falling to pieces. Disgusting nausea rose from my stomach. The room was spinning around me like a mad carousel. My face was touched by a piece of cotton emitting a stench.
I pushed someone's hand away. "No, anything but ammonia." "Tan?" A well-known voice came as if from afar. "Wake up." I sat up with difficulty, squinted, and asked, "What happened?" In my field of vision appeared Pavel, Mitrofanova's husband. "I wanted to ask you the same thing. I came home, the front door isn't locked, the apartment is wrecked, and you and Ritka are snoring on the floor." I looked around. The neatly tidy kitchen and the living room combined with it now looked like a battlefield hastily abandoned by the enemy. The dishes from the sideboard had moved to the floor and turned into a pile of shards. The stools were overturned and their legs unscrewed. The refrigerator open, the food poured out onto the windowsill. Buckwheat, rice, and pasta were dumped into the sink from the glass jars that had previously preened on the shelf by the stove. The mugs we drank tea from with Rita were overturned. The sugar bowl lay on its side. In the living room, the landscape looked no better. From the wall unit, they had shaken out the books, mostly the detective novels of Milada Smolyakova, bed linen, towels, tablecloths. "Mommy!" Rita wailed. I painfully turned my cast-iron head and saw how she rushed to the writing desk. "Pasha, we were robbed!" she screamed shrilly. "Look, my rings have disappeared, the gold watch, the money set aside for the household, and the dollars, $3,000. We were saving for a new car, bastards, scoundrels." Nikolai, instead of going over to his spouse, rushed headlong to a shoebox forlornly whitening by the radiator. He lifted the lid and squealed, "They stole it! Ritka, this is a catastrophe!" "Completely a fool," the wife responded tearfully. "The dishes are smashed, the things befouled, the gold, the money, and the savings are gone, and he's grieving over sandals." "There wasn't footwear here," Pavel objected. "What difference does it make?" the wife flared up. "Even if crystal slippers, $3,000 disappeared. Why didn't I take them to the bank? Am I not a fool? I listened to the TV. They wheeze from the screen. You will be cheated. In Russia, there is only one type of deposits, non-returnable. You put in your rubles, and you never meet them again." "Shut up!" the husband barked. "You're the fool!" Rita burst into tears. "Idiot! Cretin!" Realizing that, having exchanged pleasantries, the Mitrofanovs might start sorting things out in hand-to-hand combat, I, carefully carrying my buzzing head, slowly crawled toward the exit. "Where are you going?" Rita called after me. "Home," I answered honestly. "Sit here," Pavel ordered. "I'm calling the police."
Why? I groaned. We were robbed, the neighbor reminded me. The money was swiped. You're a witness. I flopped onto the sofa. Now that's luck. The cops promise to arrive as soon as they are free, Pasha declared, throwing the receiver into the armchair. I stifled a sorrowful sigh. Do you want the police to arrive quickly? Then tell the duty officer the apartment is communal. An unknown person's corpse has been found in the kitchen. Then you have a chance that you will see gloomy detectives within an hour. But if you reported a theft in your own apartment, stock up on patience. The more of it, the better. Maybe by the next day in the evening the cops will remember you and will send an embarrassed trainee with the task of persuading the owners not to file any statements. Oh, whoa, whoa, Rita started on one note. Will you shut up, damn it? Pasha got angry. The money, the dishes, the linens, she keened. Yo mayo, Pasha yelled. 4 million are gone and she's whining about 3 grand. Mitrofanova was petrified, then asked, 4 million? Of what? Rubles, Pasha snapped back, not cockroaches. Rita twirled a finger at her temple. Are you nuts? Fool, the husband yapped almost peacefully. Where did we get that kind of dough? Rita was amazed. Found it, Pavel snarled. Rita waved her hand. Enough yammering. Not the time for jokes now. I'm serious, Pasha stated gloomily. There were 4 million rubles in the box. Ritulya blinked. How did such a slew of banknotes fit in there? In 5,000 ruble bills, only 800 pieces, Pavel shrugged. The wife clutched at her heart. You're lying. Unfortunately, no, Pavel sobbed. Where did the money come from? Rita asked, barely audibly. Mother went for New Year to her sister in Tambov, Pavel reported. Asked me to guard her savings. Oh, and my mother-in-law has not shabby little money, Ritulya flung up her hands. Why the hell then do we give Maria Andreevna 5,000 of our hard-earned rubles every month, tearing the last from our heart?
She is my mother, and that's that. Pasha banged his fist on his knee. What the heck does the old woman need millions for? Rita did not calm down. And where did your mother scrounge them up? She sold the dacha, Pavel explained. Rita fell into a chair. The house in Glukov? Do we have 100 huts? The husband bellowed. She promised to leave it to us as an inheritance, Mitrofanova yelled. How many times she repeated, when I die, you'll sit in the evening on the veranda and thank me. Thank you, Granny Masha, left the kids a fazenda. Mom changed her mind, Pasha rashly confessed. She deceived us, Rita croaked. Pavel gnashed his teeth. That's her right, and you didn't tell me anything. The wife pressed him like a tank. When the dearest mother-in-law sold the garage, I was the last to find out about it, Pavel fought back. Mitrofanova made a face. You found something to reproach my mommy with? That rotten shell? Thank God she at least managed to give it away for next to nothing. A week later, they started demolishing the boxes. But your mommy, Maria Andreevna, has a solid house, a garden. What a bitch. Hush, Pavel yelled. Be quiet. What am I supposed to tell my mother now? Not my problem, Rita snorted. You secretly brought the money into the house, hid it without your wife's knowledge, didn't consult, didn't deem it necessary to inform me, so you can deal with it yourself. How did the thief get into the apartment? Pavel asked unexpectedly. Father Frost, it dawned on me. He brought pastries from Coffee Gourmanya. I wolfed down the caramel one and blacked out, and Rita ate the apple sponge. I think the old fellow stuffed the sweets with a powerful sleeping pill. Father Frost? Pavel asked anxiously. With treats? Ritulya objected. Nikolai has nothing to do with it. He's a decent man. Mitrofanov's cheeks turned maroon. His forehead and chin paradoxically went pale. Who is that? The neighbor looked helplessly at me. I braced myself and told Pavel about the hypoglycemic coma and the grateful, arm-angling Nikolai.
"Does the man have a last name?" Mitrofanov asked with a ferocious expression. "No," Rita squeaked. "That is, I don't know it." "Home address?" the husband pressed. "Nuh-uh," the wife murmured, barely audibly. "Where does he work?" Rita let her head droop onto her chest. Pavel rubbed his forehead and drawled, "Lucky me to have married an imbecile. If you had told me about the 4 million, I wouldn't have let anyone into the apartment," Margarita shot back. Their argument was interrupted by the doorbell. "Probably the snow maiden has run over," I joked unsuccessfully. Pavel said nothing to that and went to the hallway. Rita kept shedding tears on the sofa. I looked over the table and said, "Looks like you didn't like the pastry." "The apples are sour and the sponge is stale," she confirmed. "They messed with the recipe at Cafe Gourmagna. Everything in this world deteriorates, even their desserts." "Now it's clear why you're moving around fine and not suffering a headache," I figured out. "You got a tiny dose of the potion, and I got the full portion." "I feel very bad," Rita whined. "I'm holding on with my last strength, but I don't want to burden you with it." "What do you have here?" came from the doorway. "Tell me." A young guy of about 25, with a nose red from the wind, rubbing his chilled hands, entered the dining room. Contrary to my expectations, the district department reacted to the call at once. "See the devastation?" Rita sobbed. "Well, this is still not bad," the policeman said briskly. "They broke a little, probably found what they were looking for right away. Sometimes the robbers break walls, throw chandeliers to the floor, rip up the parquet." Rita crossed herself broadly. "God forbid." "Better tell about the cake," Pavel ordered. Having listened to Margarita, the young investigator nodded importantly. "A Trojan cake. Not the first time I've heard of a stunt like that. There was a city called Troy. There was a war there. The Trojans were surrounded, but they didn't give up. And then they were sent horses, with fighters sitting on them with rifles, and that was the end of Troy."
Despite the seriousness of the situation, I almost burst out laughing. The young man had slightly garbled the Greek legend. In the huge wooden horse left by the gates of Troy, in fact, hid Achaean warriors besieging the city. The curious Trojans, not suspecting the trick, brought the horse behind the city walls. At night, the Achaeans left their hiding place and let the rest of the army into the city. And I very much doubt that they had firearms. "Not the first case already," the pleased policeman expounded. "These performers have been operating in Moscow for a long time. They work cleverly, pick out a target, like apartments where there are rich stashes, and stage a show. One of them sits at the entrance to the building and starts pretending to be ill. Psychologists, damn it. The victim rushes to help him, brings water, buys medicine, helps him up. The criminal says thank you and leaves. And a couple of days later he rings the doorbell, holds out a cake and says, like, there's no limit to my gratitude. Have some tea with the little gift. The cop paused. But here's the main gadget. The dessert is pumped full of sleeping pills. The owners, in their naivety, will gobble it up and sleep like logs. And the thieves will work the flat, scoop up the haul, and run. What did they take from you? Gold? Diamonds? Rita opened her mouth, but Pavel got ahead of her. Be quiet. I'll tell everything myself. They swiped $3,000 and the wife's rings. Rita blinked. I was surprised too, and Pavel went on. Maybe to someone it won't seem much, but for us it's a fortune. What's your name? Anton Sergeyevich. The young man introduced himself ceremoniously. Do you want my advice? Go on then, Mitrofanov agreed wearily. You'll get nothing but a pain in the butt from the investigative actions, Anton sighed. First, a team will rummage around here and sprinkle powder over everything. Laundry? Rita asked naively. For lifting fingerprints, the investigator explained condescendingly. It's worse than dust. It will soak into curtains, carpets, settle on the walls. You can't shake it off, you'll have to do repairs. Then they'll start dragging you in for questioning. Us? Pavel was indignant. For what joy? Anton smiled. They'll determine your circle of acquaintances, question the neighbors. Experience shows that most often the thieves get information from those close to you. Our folks will start shaking people down. They'll find out a lot of things. Do you need that? They won't find anyone anyway. Yeah, Pavel grunted. And they might ask another question, the guy added craftily. Tell me, Citizen Mitrofanov, what is your salary? Could you have saved $3,000? Maybe you have an additional source of income, underpaying taxes to the state? We are honest people, Rita protested, not oligarchs. Better check various businessmen, not ordinary people. I believe you, Anton nodded. You just live simply, see? The dishes are inexpensive and... Mitrofanova blushed, ran to the wall unit, flung open the doors and declared, What do you know about porcelain? See the set? A famous German brand. Kings eat off plates like these. Wow, the policeman marveled. And by the look of it, like my mother-in-law's. Pure nonsense with little flowers. Go to the bedroom with Tatiana, Pavel hissed. Let us talk without the women. You've started clucking, hen. To my surprise, Rita obeyed. She and I sat on the wide bed, and Mitrofanova said bitterly, So what is Pashka after this? They sold the dacha on the sly with his mommy, and they wanted to stash the millions from me. I've got myself a New Year's present. I silently listened to Mitrofanova's laments, then couldn't help myself and asked, I wonder why Pavel didn't want to tell about the 4 million. Because I'm not an idiot, barked from the doorway. Rita and I turned at the same time. In the bedroom doorway stood the master of the house. The cop's an idiot, he said with feeling. But in something he's right. How am I supposed to explain where the cash came from? Tell it honestly, Rita sobbed. Like, my mother sold the dacha. Pavel broke off. Well, yes, Rita slowly rose from the marital bed and planted her hands on her hips. Hey, hold on. We got married barely after we turned 18. We've lived together 10 years. I know you like the back of my hand. You lied. The dacha wasn't sold? Well, Mitrofanov drawled. Well, where did you get the dough? Rita screeched. Pavel bulged his eyes, glanced in my direction, and said, Let's, deal with it later. Bastard, Rita declared in a tearful voice. I realized I didn't want to be the third wheel, and quickly went home. Grisha had gone off on yet another business trip, so I calmly put an egg and honey mask on my face and lay down on the couch in front of the TV. The recent incident began to run through my head. Being at home in a calm setting, I remembered that I had read in the press about inventive thieves. They managed to rob several truly wealthy people. Russians, for the most part, are very compassionate. Many cannot pass by a person who has suddenly fallen ill. The scoundrels staging the performance not only steal money, they beat out of people the desire to render help to someone ill or injured. If you were robbed for your display of mercy, the next time you won't approach even a pregnant woman who has fainted, and that is much worse than simple robbery. It is better to lose your savings than your faith in people. My eyes began to stick together. By an effort of will, I made myself get up from the couch. I washed my face, put cream on it, and went to the kitchen. After the sleeping pill I had taken, I kept wanting to drink. Halfway to the fridge, I was stopped by the doorbell. On the landing stood Rita. "Is Gree away?" she asked, nervously, wrapping herself in an oversized robe. "Yes," I nodded, involuntarily experiencing another pang of envy. I remember perfectly that in the spring, the terry robe clung to Mitrofanova's figure like a drumskin, and today it hangs on her. It seems Rita is very agitated since she has gotten into this garment. Like many overly plump people, she previously could not allow herself coquettish negligee. All those semi-transparent pants, lacy tops, and short satin negligees are intended for slender girls. Rita and I have to wear an elegant tank cover of a gray-brown mauve color. Why do manufacturers of women's underwear think that size 52 needs to be draped in a robe a la potato sack? But now Rita can quite well slip into a cute pajama set or a short little dressing gown that shows off her slimmed-down legs. The first thing Mitrofanova did after losing 20 kilos was dash to the store and buy a loungewear set of black and pink satin. And now I see on her the old robe she hates. "What happened?" I asked. "Let me in," the neighbor sobbed, and without waiting for my invitation, went into the kitchen. "Want some tea?" I suggested delicately, hoping that Mitrofanova would refuse. "Thank you," she agreed, and while I was fussing with the tea, began to complain. It turns out that after I left, truly dramatic events unfolded in the Mitrofanovs' apartment. Pavel called his mother. Despite the late hour, she rushed to her son and daughter-in-law. In fact, Maria Andreevna didn't have far to run. She lives on the other side of the street. "Wait," I was amazed. "Pavel said his mother had gone to Tambov." Rita burst into tears. "He lied about everything. Baron Munchausen can take a rest. His mommy, it's downright embarrassing to say. My mother-in-law found herself a man. At 60, she's got a romance going. She wanted to celebrate New Year's with her lover, just the two of them. And what should he tell me? Why won't she ruin our December 31st with it? She always sits under the tree with her lips pressed tight, and now she won't be there? So he and Pasha came up with the story about Tambov. Mommy handed her millions to her darling son a month ago. She was afraid her Romeo might accidentally see them. In my view, it's better to keep money in a bank, I shrugged. And there's nothing shameful in wanting to have a man nearby. 60 is not deep old age. At 70 and at 80, one can find personal happiness. Rita rolled her eyes. "I feel bad. My heart. Give me nitroglycerin." "We don't have it in the medicine cabinet," I was flustered. "Please," Mitrofanova whispered. "Run to the pharmacy on the avenue. It's open around the clock." "It's better to call the ambulance," I bustled. "No," the neighbor feebly mumbled. "By the time the doctors get here on the slippery roads, there are traffic jams everywhere. People are roaming the shops looking for gifts. I just need to swallow a pill. I'll wash it down with water and it will pass. If it's a drag for you, I'll ask Pavel, but I really don't want to turn to Mitrofanov after everything. I'd rather die than send him for nitroglycerin. Put yourself in my place and say, what would you have done?" "Nitroglycerin?" I asked again. "Powder or syrup?" "Whatever there is," Rita whispered in a dying voice. "I feel so bad." I nodded. "I'll run right now. Be careful, there's ice outside," Mitrofanova warned solicitously. Clacking loudly with the soles of my plastic slippers on the parquet, I went into the hallway, grabbed my jacket and boots, and banged the iron door against the jamb with all my might. The apartment grew very quiet. Then a faint beeping reached my ears, and the muffled voice of Mitrofanova. "Go down the stairs. Don't dawdle. We've got 15 minutes. She won't be back faster." I don't know what her interlocutor answered, but she ran into the hallway and unlocked the door. "Where?" a man's voice asked. "Shh," Rita hissed. "Here, transfer it." I considered the moment quite suitable, slid aside the panel of the sliding wardrobe, and cheerfully announced, "Peekaboo! Surprise!" Rita squealed and dropped bundles of money on the floor. A man of about 30, holding a bag in his hand, backed away. "You left!" Mitrofanova exclaimed, stunned. I climbed out of the wardrobe. "You know, nitroglycerin doesn't come in syrup or powder. This emergency remedy is produced in tiny tablets which you don't swallow but place under the tongue. If you decided to pretend to be ill with serious cardiac problems, you should first have read a couple of articles in a medical encyclopedia. I suppose my guest right now is Father Frost Nikolai." The pair exchanged glances. "Guys, you made a heap of mistakes. You came up with a seemingly original plan, but executed it ineptly," I went on. "By the way, the idea of stealing valuables from yourself and presenting it as a robbery is not new. In her time, Rita's favorite writer, Milada Smolyakova, inspired by press articles about robbers with a Trojan cake, dashed off a novel on the hot topic. I think you used that detective story as a textbook." Mitrofanova opened her mouth, but I waved my hand. "Don't bother lying. I saw you have the collected works of Milada. Her heroine swipes a Fabergé egg from her sister," Rita whined. "And you decided to appropriate $4 million from your mother-in-law. What difference does it make what to steal?" I smiled. "The idea is what matters. The money is right here. It's silly to deny the obvious." "But how did you guess?" the neighbor groaned. "Elementary, Mitrofanova," I sighed. "First you said you know all of Pavel's caches. Therefore it's hard for him to equip a hiding place in the apartment. I agree with you completely. You're a good housekeeper. Your cupboards are in order everywhere. Before New Year's, women usually start a thorough cleaning. I'll bet 100 to 1 you found the shoebox with the millions. No doubt Pasha shoved it up on the overhead storage shelf, naively assuming his wife wouldn't climb into the stash of useless things. Alas, he was mistaken. I, for one, would never stick my nose into the overhead storage, but you're a meticulous woman. Moving on. The Nikolai who fell at the entrance could not have whispered, "I have glycemic coma." In a coma, a person does not respond to stimuli, and a lump of sugar won't help him. In such an attack, they administer intravenously glucose, adrenaline, glycogen. "Are you a doctor?" Nikolai brightened. I smirked. "No, I just read various encyclopedias at night. Your next blunders are downright silly, especially Grandpa Frost's statement. I got an order, drove up to the building, remembered that a good Samaritan lives in it, bought pastries next door. They were from Coffee Gourmania. There are only 2 of those cafes, and both are downtown. There's nothing like that anywhere near our neighborhood. You get the bronze. The silver medal goes to Rita, who took care to supply her accomplice with her neighbor's favorite pastries. She knew perfectly well. I can still resist an ordinary Napoleon or an eclair, but pastries from Coffee Gourmania I'll eat in a heartbeat. It was into one of those that Rita stuffed the sleeping pills. She herself didn't touch the dessert. The apple sponge was untouched. When I fell asleep, dear Rita pulled out the money, hid it elsewhere, and staged the robbery. Why did she need a neighbor? A naive question. I would have confirmed her testimony. If one woman tells about the appearance of a Trojan cake, you can doubt her truthfulness. But when there are 2 victims, it's hard to suspect deceit. But attention, it's time for the Grand Prix and the gold medal. What robber would search through a home without causing loss to the owners? A criminal will certainly stage a pogrom, smash the dishes, and her beloved new dinner set is sacred to Rita. Therefore, she put it away in the cupboard, put the cheap set on display, and destroyed it. I can imagine how Mitrofanova's heart bled. Every little plate is precious to her. But what won't you do for 4 million? Oh, and I forgot to mention how vigorously dear Rita tempted me with the pastry. She even started sniffing the apple sponge herself. And yet she hasn't touched baked goods since spring. But that's a trifle. It wasn't me. Nikolai quickly disowned his participation in the scheme. Father Frost couldn't pronounce the R. I felt like laughing. And how do you know this fact? There's a very simple way to alter pronunciation. Put about 5 raw beans under your tongue, and you'll get the effect of R mangling coupled with slurred speech. Besides, your shoelace is smeared with paint, and by a remarkable coincidence, the same thing happened to Father Frost's shoes. My mother-in-law deceived me, Rita keened, sold the dacha, took a lover. Pashka and his mommy were talking on the phone from the toilet, and I go into the bathroom and listen. Do you know what Maria Andreevna came up with? Her beau has a daughter, a 20-year-old little squirt. My mother-in-law wanted to shove me aside and marry her son to that girl. Viper. No way for her. I'll go to my mother's myself, with the money. I have a right to it. I raised my hands. Sorry, I'm not going to interfere in your strictly personal affairs. Will you tell Pasha? Mitrofanova sobbed. Will you ruin me? Deprive Nikolai and me of happiness? We want to start all over. I felt disgusted. I told you I don't interfere in other people's lives. Rita bounced up and hugged me. Thank you. Next time, don't pull on the old robe to hide the money under it. I couldn't resist. You're a true friend, the neighbor exclaimed with pathos. Nikolasha, let's go. I silently watched them leave my apartment. Who can be considered a true friend? You can't answer at once this seemingly simple question. But I know one thing. If you plan to get money by deceiving a friend, then, having obtained it, you will probably lose the friend forever.